welcome to the deep dive. You want to get into human enhancement, so let's dive into that today.
Oh, yeah. Definitely tons to unpack here.
You sent us a bunch of stuff to get through, like articles or books, and even a sci-fi book and a manifesto.
Cool mix.
Totally. Should give us a good, overview of this whole world.
Yeah, for sure. Both theoretical and practical stuff, too.
Okay, so let's start super basic.
Mm.
What are we even talking about with human enhancement?
Okay, so at the core, it's all about using tech and science to kind of break through our limits, you know?
Like what we think we can do as humans with our minds and bodies.
Exactly.
But this isn't like a new thing, right?
Oh, definitely not. It's built into being American.
Oh, yeah, totally. How so?
Well, we've got this whole thing about individualism and self-improvement and always needing to progress and be better.
It's true. Good is never good enough. You always got to one-up yourself.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. And look around. It's everywhere you look.
Yeah, gyms and self-help books are all about being the best version of yourself.
For sure. And all that combines with how fast biotech is growing.
And that's where biohacking comes in.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for anyone who's not up on all the lingo?
So biohacking is basically using science and tech to upgrade your own biology.
Okay.
It's a huge range of stuff, simple things like changing when you eat.
Like intermittent fasting and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Or going way more extreme, like injecting yourself with DNA.
Whoa, hold up. Really? People are doing that?
Oh, yeah. There's this guy, Josiah Zayner, who used to work for NASA.
Oh, wow.
And he used that CRISPR tech to edit genes and actually injected himself with DNA.
No way.
Yeah, it made a lot of people freak out because it brings up so many questions about how ethical all this is.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Especially since biohacking is becoming way more mainstream these days.
Really?
Oh, yeah, totally. You see it all over the media now, and celebrities are into it, and there's huge conferences.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not just fringe science anymore. There are even guidebooks for regular people.
Like that.
There's this book, Biohacking, The Science of Upgrading Your Body, Mind, and Life by James Lee.
Catchy title.
Yeah, it's all about breaking it down so anyone can get into biohacking.
So it's not all about these crazy experiments?
Nope. There's a ton of interest in using it for everyday health and wellness.
Makes sense.
But it's super important to know what you're doing because there's a lot of bad info out there.
It's true.
So anyone who's thinking about getting into it needs to be careful and do their research.
And how can someone do that safely?
Definitely talk to a real doctor first and read stuff from sources you can trust.
Yeah, good advice.
And remember, we're talking about changing your body, so informed consent is super important.
For sure. So don't just jump into something without knowing the risks.
Exactly.
Okay, so one thing that's getting super popular are these smart drugs that people are using.
You mean nootropics?
Yeah, those. What's the deal with those?
Okay, so nootropics are supposed to make you think better, boost your memory and focus and all that.
Right, like that limitless pill idea.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And since everyone wants to be more productive these days, these supplements are everywhere.
You see those ads with super intense names?
Oh, yeah, totally. Brain Octane or Unfair Advantage.
Uh-huh. It's true.
They know how to market it.
Yeah, because it's everyone feels this pressure to constantly be better and do more.
Definitely. And that's where it gets ethically tricky, you know?
Yeah, how so?
Is it really fair to use something that gives you an edge over other people?
Right. That's a good question.
And what happens long term? We don't even know what the effects are yet.
That's a good point.
So even if something is natural, doesn't mean it's automatically safe or ethical.
Yeah, that's true. We have to think about how these things might be misused.
Exactly. And as the tech gets more advanced, we got to keep having these conversations about the ethics of it all.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little and talk about genetic testing.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So companies like 23andMe are giving people tons of access to their own genetic information.
Yeah, it's like getting a blueprint of yourself, you know?
Yeah, totally.
You can see your risks for diseases and learn about your ancestry and even your personality.
But doesn't all that access raise some ethical questions?
Definitely, who owns all that data and how will it be used?
Yeah, and could people be discriminated against based on their genes?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those are big concerns.
Even if you know your risks, it doesn't mean you'll get a disease.
Right. Your lifestyle matters, too.
It's all connected.
And it's important to talk to a genetic counselor to help understand all the info.
Yeah, so you don't freak out unnecessarily.
Exactly.
So we talked about the traditional testing, but are people doing DIY genetic stuff too?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Biohackers love to experiment.
Like who?
This guy, Raymond McCauley, is using DIY tests to figure out all sorts of stuff about his body.
Like what?
like how he processes nutrients and what vitamins he should be taking.
Wow, that's intense. But also kind of cool.
It is, but it also shows how careful you have to be with DIY science.
Yeah, it's not something to mess around with.
Right. It's great that science is becoming more accessible,
Definitely.
but people need to be responsible and have the knowledge to do it safely.
Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the quantified self movement.
Oh, cool. So that's all about tracking yourself with technology.
Right, like using fitness trackers and sleep monitors and those apps that track your mood.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like people do it for two main reasons, right?
Yeah, like to know themselves better and also to like optimize themselves.
So like self-knowledge and self-improvement.
Yep.
But doesn't all that tracking get a little obsessive?
Maybe, yeah. Some people worry we're too focused on the numbers and not on how we actually feel.
That's a good point.
And there are the privacy issues again.
Right, like who has access to all that data about us?
Yeah, it's a big question with no easy answers.
Okay, so let's get a little sci-fi now and talk about grinding.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is where people are actually putting tech into their bodies,
Yeah, like implants and biochips and even glowing tattoos.
like merging humans and machines. So why are people doing this?
Well, some people want to like extend their abilities or just express themselves differently.
Interesting.
And some are super into the philosophical side of it, like what does it even mean to be human anymore?
Right, that's a huge question.
But there are definitely risks involved, like safety issues and the possibility of hacking.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
And what happens if only rich people can afford to enhance themselves?
Yeah, that would create even more inequality.
Exactly. So it's something we need to think carefully about as this tech gets more advanced.
It's like we're stepping into this whole new world with so much potential.
Yeah, and so many unknowns.
Definitely, it's both exciting and a little scary.
Totally. And it's not just like science and tech though, right?
Oh yeah, what else?
It's like bleeding into art too.
You mean like bioart,
Exactly.
where artists use like actual biological stuff in their art?
Yeah, it's wild, like mixing science and art to make us think differently about creativity.
Cool. Can you give us an example?
Oh yeah, there was this artist who made a tattoo that glowed.
Whoa, how?
They used bioluminescent bacteria, like living organisms, as part of the art.
That's so crazy.
It makes you think about like the connection between nature and tech and our bodies in a whole new way.
Totally. Okay, but let's be real for a sec.
Yeah.
How do we know all this biohacking stuff is safe? Like, it seems kind of risky.
It's a good question, and it's something the biohacking community takes really seriously.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of biohackers are like super smart and experienced in their fields,
Okay.
and they know they need to be careful and have safety protocols.
So it's not just people messing around in their basements with no clue what they're doing.
Haha, no, definitely not. A lot of biohacking labs have strict rules,
Okay.
and they work with experts to make sure their experiments are safe and ethical.
That makes sense. But still, like, even with all that, there's always a chance something could go wrong.
True, especially when you're dealing with biology, it's complex.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's also part of what makes it so exciting, you know?
How so?
It's about pushing those boundaries and exploring the unknown and constantly learning new stuff.
I guess so. So it's like a tightrope walk, right?
Yeah,
You want to innovate, but you got to be super safe and responsible too.
you got it. It's something the whole biohacking community is constantly talking about and figuring out.
Makes sense?
And speaking of risks, there's another big one we got to talk about.
What's that?
Misuse.
Ooh, yeah. The dark side of biohacking.
Exactly. Like, what if someone uses it to make bioweapons or to exploit people who are enhanced?
That's scary stuff.
It is. We can't just ignore it, you
Right.
know? Any tech this powerful can be used for bad stuff.
True.
So we need to be having these conversations about ethics and put safeguards in place.
Definitely, like, we need to make sure biohacking is used to help people, not hurt them.
For sure. It's like any powerful tool, right?
Yeah.
It can be used for good or for bad.
Like a hammer can build a house or it can break a skull.
Exactly. So we need to make sure it's used for the right reasons.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And that's why it's so important to have everyone involved in this conversation, like scientists and ethicists and policymakers and regular people.
You mean like a collaborative approach?
Exactly. We all need to work together to make sure biohacking is used for good.
Makes sense. Okay, so enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about when you think about where biohacking could go?
Oh, man. There are so many possibilities. It's hard to choose.
Yeah.
But I think personalized medicine is huge.
What's that?
Like, imagine treatments that are designed specifically for your genes and lifestyle.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and regenerative medicine, too, like being able to actually repair damaged organs.
That would be incredible.
And then there's the whole cognitive enhancement thing. Like, what if we could learn faster and be more creative?
It's like we're talking about a future where we can overcome all these limitations that have held us back.
Yeah, like human potential would be limitless.
That's a crazy thought.
And honestly, this is just the beginning, you know? As we learn more about biology and tech, who knows what we'll be able to do?
Yeah, that's true. So much is still unknown.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the risks and the possibilities.
Yeah.
But what does all this tell us about the future of science itself?
I think we're seeing a huge shift in how science is done.
How so?
Biohacking is making science more accessible to everyone.
Like democratizing science.
Exactly. It's not just for universities and big labs anymore.
That's cool.
Yeah, it means more people can get involved and contribute their ideas.
But are traditional scientists cool with that?
Not all of them. Some are worried about like the lack of rigor and control in DIY biohacking.
Yeah, I can see that.
And there are valid concerns about safety and ethics.
Right, so it's about finding that balance again.
Yep. Encourage innovation, but make sure it's done responsibly.
Makes sense. So what about the future of medicine?
Oh, I think biohacking is pushing us towards a more personalized approach,
What do you mean?
like empowering people to take charge of their own health.
So like using tech and data to make informed decisions about your body.
Exactly. It's about moving away from that reactive model of waiting till you get sick.
And instead being proactive and preventing disease.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Imagine being able to track your health in real time and catch problems early on.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and maybe even intervene before you even get sick.
Wow. But how do we make sure everyone has access to this stuff?
That's the key question, right? We don't want to create even more health disparity.
Yeah, that would be bad.
If only rich people can afford to enhance themselves, it'll just make things worse.
So we need to think about affordability and accessibility.
Definitely. We need guidelines to make sure biohacking benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Makes sense. It's like with any new tech, we have to consider the social and ethical implications.
Absolutely, tech should be used to empower everyone, not just create more division.
Okay, so we've talked about all these practical implications.
Yeah.
But let's get philosophical for a sec.
Ooh, I like it.
Like, what does all this mean for our understanding of what it means to be human?
Whoa, that's the big question, isn't it?
Like, we're literally talking about changing what it means to be human.
Yeah, for centuries we've had these limits on what we can do.
Like, we're born a certain way, and we can only do so much.
Exactly. But now those limits are changing. We can enhance our bodies and minds, live longer, merge with tech.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And it
Yeah.
makes us rethink everything we thought we knew about ourselves.
It's exciting and scary at the same time.
Totally. And it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Like, we have to be careful about how we use this power.
Yeah, we need to make sure our choices align with our values and create a better future.
So what are some of the potential consequences we need to be thinking about?
Well, one big one is inequality.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Like, what if biohacking creates a class of superhumans who are better than everyone else?
Like a real-life X-Men situation.
Kind of. But it would be bad. It would just make the gap between rich and poor even bigger.
Definitely, that's a future we want to avoid.
For sure. Biohacking should be about making everyone better, not just a select few.
Okay, so beyond the social and economic stuff,
Yeah.
what about the deeper philosophical questions?
Like, what happens to our sense of self when we start messing with our biology?
Yeah, is there a risk we lose something essential about being human?
That's the question everyone's asking, and there's no easy answer.
Yeah, I can see that.
Some people think it's just natural for humans to use tech to improve themselves.
Like we've always been tool users.
Exactly. Biohacking is just the next step.
But others are worried we're going too far.
Yeah, they're worried we'll become more machine than human.
So it's a balancing act. on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do we embrace the possibilities while still holding on to what makes us human?
That's a tough one.
It is, and it's a conversation we need to keep having as we move forward.
It's like biohacking is forcing us to really examine what it means to be human.
For sure. It's a journey of self-discovery, both for individuals and for society as a whole.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides.
Yeah.
But let's end on a positive note.
I like it.
What are you most optimistic about when you think about the future of biohacking?
You know, honestly, what excites me the most is the potential to just make life better for everyone.
How so?
Like, imagine a future without disease where we're all smarter and healthier and live longer.
Wow, that would be incredible.
And maybe we'll even discover new ways of being and experiencing the world.
It's like the possibilities are endless.
They really are. And sure, there are risks, but If we're careful and responsible, I think biohacking can help us create an amazing future.
It's pretty amazing to think about how biohacking could solve some of our biggest problems.
Yeah, for sure.
But we can't get carried away and forget about the risks.
Totally got to be smart about it.
So how are people making sure biohacking is being done ethically?
Well, a lot of the DIY biolabs are super serious about safety.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They've got strict rules and protocols, often even stricter than what the government requires.
Wow, okay, so they're not messing around.
Nope. They really get it.
Yeah.
You know, they know how powerful this stuff is and they want to do it right.
That's good to hear.
And they're constantly talking to experts and checking their work.
So it's not just a bunch of amateurs going rogue.
Haha. No, not at all. They're super smart and they really care about doing things ethically.
So it's like a balance, right?
Yeah,
They're pushing boundaries, but they're also being responsible.
exactly. And I think it's because they really believe in the potential of biohacking.
Like they see it as a way to make the world better.
Yeah, exactly. They're like pioneers exploring a new frontier.
That's a good way to put it.
And they know they have a responsibility to do it right, so it benefits everyone.
Makes sense.
Like, they're navigating uncharted territory, but they're being careful and thoughtful about it.
I like that analogy.
It's not just about blindly experimenting. They're thinking about the big picture and the long-term consequences.
That's awesome. And, one of the things I find really cool about biohacking is how empowering it is for individuals.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's like giving people the power to take control of their own health.
It's about reclaiming ownership of your own body,
Yeah, like instead of just listening to doctors, you're becoming an active participant in your own well-being.
Exactly. For too long, we've just been passive patients.
Yeah, just taking whatever pills they give us.
Uh-huh, yeah. But biohacking encourages you to learn about your body and make your own choices.
So it's like a partnership with your doctor.
Yeah, more like a collaboration. You're both working together to achieve your health goals.
I like that.
It's about taking control of your own health narrative.
That's a powerful idea.
But of course, we got to make sure everyone has access to this stuff.
Yeah, that's the key, right?
We don't want to create a world where only rich people can afford to be healthy and enhanced.
That would be a disaster.
So we got to think about equity and accessibility.
Definitely.
We need to make sure everyone has the opportunity to benefit from these advancements.
It's like with any new tech.
Yeah,
We have to make sure it's used to benefit all of humanity.
for sure. It's about creating a better future for everyone.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we've gone deep.
We've talked about the history, the science, the ethics,
Yeah.
the philosophy of human
It's
enhancement.
like a big topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, shoot.
So as we enter this era of human enhancement, where we can change ourselves in ways we never thought possible,
Yeah.
what does it even mean to be human anymore?
Whoa. That's a heavy one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do we draw the line between human and machine?
It's a question everyone's asking, and there's no easy answer.
It's something we all need to think about.
Definitely. But I think the most important thing is to keep having these conversations.
Yeah, to keep questioning and exploring and debating.
Exactly. And to be open to new ideas and perspectives.
Because ultimately, the future of human enhancement is up to us.
It's not predetermined. It's something we create through our choices and our actions.
So it's like a collective responsibility.
Yeah, we all have a role to play in shaping this future.
Really? That's a powerful thought. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. But I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of human enhancement.
It's been a blast.
It really has. We've covered so much ground.
And I think we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore. So to all our listeners out there, keep those minds curious and stay engaged in the conversation.
Yeah, keep learning and keep questioning.
Because the future is ours to create.
Cheers to that.
Until next time, stay curious and keep diving deep.